Hello and welcome to the Low Budget Review Show. I'm your host Eric Smith, and today I'm talking about Darwin Kastle's Cthulhu Realms. It's a deck building game for 2 to 4 players, and right off the bat, if you know how to play Star Realms, then you know how to play Cthulhu Realms. Really quickly, I'll go over the basics of the game. First, I think, go over what you get. Lots of cards, of course. It's a deck building game. I'll get into specific cards shortly. The object of the game is to drive your opponents insane. Be the last sane person standing. If the deck runs out of cards and there's more than one player left, whoever has the most sanity wins. So with most things Lovecraftian and Cthulhu, sanity is what's important. So you get this card here to keep track of your sanity, and on the side, this side, it has it tells you what all the symbols on your cards mean, what they do. The only text on the cards is the name of the card. Everything else is just symbols. So this will tell you what you need to know, and you can keep track of your sanity. And you've got these little tokens here to use with your card to keep track of your sanity. The card only goes up to 55, so if you have more sanity than that, you use these little plus 55 things. So that's just something simple. So it's those two things, and then of course your cards. Now, first of all, as with every deck building game I've played, everyone's going to start out with the same basic deck of cards. 10 cards, and you're going to have 2 goons, and these guys just smack you in the brain. 6 followers, and these guys give you conjuring points, which is what you use to buy or conjure new cards. And then you'll have 2 initiates, and these initiates give you 2 conjuring points or 1 smack in the brain, and then you can abjure or destroy a card, this card, to smack your opponent in the brain 1 more time. And this has a cost of 2, so you can actually buy more of these. And the basic layout, as with a lot of these deck building games, is you shuffle up the main deck. You put out 5 cards face up, and that's where you're going to buy your cards from. From where you're going to buy your cards. So you're going to have those 5 cards face up, plus there'll be a little stack of these. So those are available. And one of the interesting things in this, I think, is that your deck is placed face up instead of face down, so you can see the next card that's going to come in to the lineup that you can buy from, which may change how you do things. You might have 6 conjuring points to spend, and there's a nice card that costs 6 available, but then you look over at the top of the deck and there's a card that costs 4 that really would go with your deck. So instead of buying that 6 card, you might buy a 2, let that 4 come in because you fill that space up immediately, and then you can buy that 4. So knowing what's coming next adds a little something extra. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Still talking about the cards here. So there are basically three types of cards. Entities, which are people and creatures. Artifacts, which are artifacts, they're things. And locations. So basically, what you're going to have with a card is the cost of the card is going to be over here. Then on this side you have the abilities of the card, and then down here it tells you, it gives you the name of the card, and this shows that it's an entity. This shows that it's an artifact, and this shows that it's a location. You also have, well, technically there's 4 colors: purple, yellow, green, and black. Black is just the starter cards, and I don't think that color comes into play at all. But some colors do come into play. On your cards, as I said, you have these abilities. And let's see. If you look at the second picture, or the one in the middle, you see that little green rectangle? That means to use this ability, you have to have a green card in play. Simple enough. So if you play this card, you can do 4 sanity damage to your opponent. Then if you, at any point you have another green card in play, you can do another 2 sanity damage. Now this little tiny symbol down here with that blue arrow means that you can abjure or destroy this card and gain 3 conjuring points. But you're destroying it. You're not even discarding it. You're destroying it. It's out of the game. Or is it? Because there are cards, or there are symbols, or powers, whatever you want to call it, that allow you to go through the destroyed cards and get a new one. Acquire a card. That little symbol there. If that's on one of your cards and you're able to do it, then you can go through the destroyed pile and get a new card, and I believe it goes on top of your deck. So, actually we'll go over here. So that little symbol there, that brown, if it has a plus and a number, then you draw that many cards. If it has a minus and a number, then you make someone discard that many cards. So that red, abjure a card, that means you destroy a card. There's your conjuring power, gain and lose sanity. So I've showed everything I've showed you so far, I think, has a minus in there. So of course you're attacking your opponent, making them lose that sanity. Sometimes there's a plus, so you can gain that sanity. That symbol there, you can destroy a location, and then, as I said, you can acquire a card. The location cards are cards that once you play them, they stay in play, and you gain the benefits every turn, the benefits of that card. Now, if you look down here, if your opponent can generate 6 attack, we'll call it, in 1 turn, they can destroy this card. Or, I'm sorry, well, they call it destroying it, but in this particular case, it goes into your discard pile. It's not out of the game. I think is why they use the term abjure for putting cards out of the game. Destroying a location just means you have to discard it. You'll get it back eventually. So, damage for locations is not cumulative. It has to be destroyed in a single turn. Now, there are some special things with locations, some of the locations. Here's Arkham City. And if you look here, there's a little building inside that shield. That means as long as this card is in play, your opponent can't destroy any of your other locations. They have to destroy this first before they can destroy any of your others. And if you look at this one, there's a little person inside that shield. That means your opponent can't damage you until this location is destroyed. So if you were to have both of these cards in play, your opponent can't hurt you until this is destroyed, but they can't destroy this until this is destroyed. So it's nice to get these cards into play at the same time, and your opponent has to waste their attacks destroying your locations before they can do any sanity damage to you. Hopefully that makes sense. This is all very general. As I said, if you've played Star Realms, then you know how to play this. If you haven't played Star Realms, Well, you can find the full instructions online. I'm just going over the basics. So you start with your basic deck. You have that lineup of 5 cards to conjure, to make your deck stronger. And then, of course, you want to drive your opponent insane. And those are the basics. So, oh, and there's one other little symbol, I think, here that's very important. If you look, you see that little red and black arrow-y thing? One's the red's pointing up, the black's pointing down. That means you have to choose which one of those abilities to use with this card. You can either have 2 conjuring points or do 1 point of sanity damage to your opponent or to their locations if that's what you're trying to do. You don't do both. You have to choose one. Alright, so those are the basics. And again, if you're familiar with deck building games, you know how these things work. So, what do I think of the game? This is a review after all. I like it. Star Realms was pretty popular when it came out. Very popular, I think, when it came out. I picked it up. And we've played it a bit, but not a lot. I have other deck building games that I like more. And personally, I like this one more. Now, full disclosure, I'm a bit of an H.P. Lovecraft / Cthulhu enthusiast, so I have a touch of bias here. If you put a Cthulhu skin on something, I'm more likely to take a look at it. I'm not necessarily going to pick it up just because it's Cthulhu, but I'm definitely going to check it out. And the day I heard of this game, I happened to win a $25 gift card from Amazon, and it was easy to decide what. Initially, I thought I was going to go nuts trying to figure out what to get with my gift card because there's so many things to get. But then I heard of this game and immediately picked it up. And with shipping, it was less than $25. I think the cover price is like 20 bucks. Excuse me. So, why do I like this game so much, and why do I like it more than Star Realms? Star Realms is a lot of fun, but the artwork is very same old, same old. It's a little dark, and it's just spaceships and space stations. And they all kind of look the same. And it's very nice artwork, but it's not. There's not a wide variety in how it looks, if that makes sense. I mean, all the spaceships are different, the space stations are different, but they all kind of blend together. Whereas in this game, even though the artwork is cartoony, you know, if you look here, it's a little cartoony. It's fun. It's a lot of fun, and it's a little brighter than Star Realms, and it's Cthulhu based, and I love the Cthulhu mythos. And I just want to show you some of the cards that I really like, just because, and mainly because it's the creatures and things that I like. And you have Amigo. I pronounce it Migo. I think some people pronounce it Mygo. I don't know. Obviously an entity, and I showed you this one earlier. You do 4 damage to your opponent or locations. If you have another green card in play, do another 2 damage. And if you abjure, that's the pronunciation, this card, you can get 3 conjuring points. But it's the artwork. I really like that. And it costs 3. It's for a cost of 3, for it to do 4 damage. That's really nice. One of my favorite creatures from the mythos, Dagon. A little more expensive, but does 3 damage. You can abjure a card so that it's out of the game, and a lot of abilities are triggered by abjuring a card, so having the ability to do that. And it can be any card in your hand, your discard pile, or in the lineup that you can buy from. And then down here, if you have a green card in play, and this little rectangle with the red thing in the middle of it, that indicates discarding. So if you have another green card in play, and at some point during your turn someone has discarded a card, then you can draw a card. You can draw a card. That's what that means. But it's Dagon, so that's really cool. And then along those same lines, we have the deep ones. Again, it's not too expensive. It only costs 4, and you get 3 conjuring, or you can do 4 damage to your opponent. And if you've played another green card, if you have another green card in play this turn, you can abjure a card. And then, nice and freaky, we have the Haunting Horror. Look at that guy. Wouldn't want to run into him in a dark alley. Again, 4 damage. You can abjure a card. And if you have another green card in play, you get +2 conjuring. Locations are great for keeping, for having cards in play that you need. If you have a green location, then and your opponent doesn't destroy it, you play this card, boom, you're automatically going to get those +2 conjuring because you have a green card in play. Boom, you're going to be able to abjure a card because you have a green card in play. Boom, you're going to do 2 damage to your opponent because you have a green card in play. I have a tendency to build a green deck simply because I love these creatures. But you do want a nice mix of cards, colors. I'll show you a few others. Here's a couple artifacts. And again, this one really plays up the light-hearted feel to the game. This is the King in Yellow. And, yeah, it looks like a nice little Dr. Seuss book. So here, with this symbol, if you have a location in play, boom, 5 damage to your opponent. Well, 5 sanity loss, but again, you can use it to destroy locations as well. It's kind of a weird thing there. Also, you can make your opponent discard a card. You can discard a card if you want, but typically you're going to make your opponent discard a card. So, let's see, where was that other one? Where was... Okay, it's on Dagon. So, do this. I can't do anything with my left hand. Alright, so you've played this. You've made your opponent discard a card. Then you've got Dagon. See, and he has that little symbol there. So if you have another green card in play, and you've made someone discard a card, then you'll get to draw a card. See how it all comes together? Alright, so that's the King in Yellow. And then, of course, it's Cthulhu, so you've got to have the Necronomicon. 4 damage. And if you have another yellow card in play, you can make someone discard 1 card, and you draw 2 cards. See how that works? Alright, and then again, I showed you these locations really quickly so you could see the symbols, but you've got Miskatonic University. So if you have an entity in play, -2 sanity for your opponent. If you have an artifact in play, -3 sanity. And if you have both, another -3 sanity. So that's a pretty good card. It does cost 8. But it's still a pretty good card. And it costs 6. It's going to take 6 for your opponent to destroy it. So it's a tough one. Alright, Arkham City only costs 3. It protects your other locations. And every turn, if you have this in play, because it stays out, every turn you're going to do 1 sanity damage. And then if you abjure this card, you can gain 3 conjuring points. And then finally, Miskatonic Library. protects you, and every turn you make your opponent discard 2 cards and you draw 2 cards. And it only costs 4, which isn't bad. So, yeah, I really like this game. I love the artwork. It's really a lot of fun. You know, some of it's pretty silly. There are some great monsters in here, interesting characters. It has Wilbur Whateley. It also has the other Whateley brother, Dean Halsey, is in here. Interesting locations. Of course, there's a sanitarium. And there's a lot of back and forth in your sanity loss and gain. I think there's more gain and losses than in Star Realms. At least it feels like it. You may take some big hits to your sanity, but then if you've got the cards, you can get it right back. The cards work well together. In Star Realms, I think there's 5 different types or colors that you have to work with, and here again technically there's 4, but black really doesn't matter, so there's 3 colors that you just have to coordinate to maximize your abilities. Excuse me. This little card for keeping track of your points is nicer than the system they use in Star Realms. I'm just making these differences, or mentioning these differences, for those people who are familiar with Star Realms, so you can see the slight differences there, because I'm reviewing this game, and I shouldn't really compare it to Star Realms as far as my review goes. Whether or not I like Star Realms and how this stands up against Star Realms shouldn't matter. But for those who are familiar with Star Realms, I'm saying that name a lot. For those who are familiar with that other game, I just want to make sure the differences are clear. So, I would give this guy, I didn't do any drawings or anything, I only do those for books, but I'd still give this, for me, man, I'd say a 4 out of 5 easily. DC deck building, still my favorite, but this one's a lot of fun. It's quick. As I said, I love Cthulhu and his pals, so that gives it just an extra boost for me as far as it goes. I think it's a very simple game, as long as you just pay attention to what the symbols are. And again, you've got it on the side of your card here, so it's not even like you have to really remember what they do. Just look at your little card. It takes, the box says 25 to 45 minutes, which probably is about right, I think. And again, it's for 2 to 4 players right out of the box. I like it with 2. I haven't played with more than that, so I'm not sure how that's going to pan out. A lot of games have a player threshold. It might recommend, you know, this number to this number of players, but you'll find that sweet spot. Like the game King of Tokyo is for 2 to however many players. I'm not even sure how high it goes. But I don't like it with 2 players. It's too much just straight back and forth. 3 to 4 players for me is really the sweet spot for that game. You get more than that, it starts to get a little long. You got to wait quite a while till your turn comes back around. But I think 3 to 4 players for that game. So this game, I can't say because I've only played with 2. And it does have some different layouts as far as the cards go that you can buy. If you're playing with 3 or 4 players, but I'm not going to get into that because I haven't done it, so I can't speak to it. So I guess that's it. I don't know. I picked out what I thought were the best cards to show you. But, oh, there's Kasaya Mason, Brain Cylinder. Maybe I'll throw a few more up here. There's a Ghoul. Nyarlathotep. I just like to say his name. Yeah, you've got a medical student, a Miskatonic University medical student, and a medical staff. Those are really good for regaining sanity. The Terrible Old Man is a really good card. And he costs 7, but you gain 5 sanity and do 4 damage to your opponent right off the bat. Shadow of Cthulhu, another expensive card, but you can just destroy a location automatically. The Yellow Sign, again, it's silly, but it's a pretty good card and it's not that expensive. The Yithian, more kind of cartoony artwork, but I like it. I love the card for the younger Whately brother, because you just have the giant footsteps and apparently he's carrying a cow. If you're familiar with the story, the Dunwich Horror, you'll understand this card. More so than someone who's not familiar with it. Ruins, a pretty inexpensive location that'll help protect you. Wilbur Whately, kind of an expensive card, but he does some pretty solid damage. So, oh, the Unspeakable One. Again, an expensive card, but a very strong card. Alright. I could just keep going on, and I have. This is getting to be a very long review. But I really enjoy this game. It's quick and easy. I love the Cthulhu theme. So if you like deck building games, and if you really like Cthulhu, I recommend it. If you like Star Realms, I recommend it. I do have a friend who hasn't picked it up because she and her husband think that it's just Star Realms with another skin. Which, I mean, essentially, yes, that's what it is. So you don't need both. I have both because Star Realms came out first, and that's what I got when it came out. But if they both came out at the same time, easily I would pick this one, not just because of Cthulhu, but if I took the time to look them over, I like the artwork better in this. I like the gameplay. So that's Cthulhu Realms, my very long review. I recommend it. So this has been the Low Budget Review Show. Oh man, I already forgot all this. I will have a link for the game in the description below, the link for Amazon, if you want to check it out. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put them in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Alright, now that's out of the way, and this has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith, and until next time, read more books.